Hi everybody, it is Kim from Tabletop Gaming Guild and I am back with another review. Today's game is called Doomlings. It is a 2 to 6 player game. Recommended ages are 10 and up, and the game manufacturer tells us that it'll probably take you 20 to 30 minutes to play depending on how many players. So let me take you down to the tabletop and you can see how a game works. Alrighty friends, so let's check out how this game works. So the first thing that we want to do is make sure that you've got your two types of cards with the ages on the back separated. So some that are marked Catastrophe should be separate, and then the others that are just the ages, you should separate those two for the very beginning purposes. So what we're going to do, shuffle these up, the ages card, and you're going to deal out 3 piles of 3 cards each. And then you're going to put 1 Catastrophe into each pile. And you're going to shuffle these individually. After you shuffle individually, you're going to pile them up and put the Birth of Life on the top. Then, each player is going to pick one of these gene pool cards. They're all the same, so just pick whichever color or design you like best. That will be a reference card that you'll need. And there are also a few of these turn cards that will help you throughout the game, so make sure you distribute those. And then you're going to want to shuffle your trait cards. In the directions it says shuffle as though your life depends on it. And then we're going to deal out everybody 5 cards. So we'll just make a couple of stacks for the time being. And we are ready to play. So the first player is going to be the person who is left of the dealer, and that person is simply going to flip over this Birth of Life card. That's essentially the start of the whole era. Once they do that, you'll notice on each of the ages cards that there is, in yellow typeface, a direction that everyone will follow. And then there will be a second direction as well. So we'll follow those. This applies to everybody. The second one is going to tell you what you need to do on your turn. So to start off, everybody simply plays 1 trait. So the traits are all different categories, different colors, and each color corresponds to a certain type of print on the card itself, which I thought was a really nice touch in case you happen to be colorblind or have difficulty separating the colors. Alright, that is a great thing for you. So we will set out all of the hands here. And sometimes this secondary direction will say something about what it is you can or cannot play. So we will say that our first person decides to play this card, which will allow them to add up points, extra points, based on how many blue cards they have. And we'll say this person wants to play a dominant card. There are a few trait cards that say dominant at the top. And what this signifies is there are certain traits that are dominant traits that one cannot take. So there are certain traits that allow you to perhaps steal a trait from another person, but these dominant ones, they do not follow under those rules. Now, after each time you play, whatever number your gene pool is set on, which according to these directions, everyone is going to be set on 5, you want to make sure that you always have 5 cards in your hand. So this player would have drawn one more. After this player plays the dominant card, they'll draw one more. And same thing over here. This player wants to try to build on these kidney cards, so they will draw up. If you happen to have more cards, you would simply discard. If you have the correct number of cards, then you don't have to do anything. And all of this is laid out on your turn cards. So, following the directions, if your trait has something that you're supposed to do right now, you do it, and then you stabilize. Once it gets back, once everybody has played, then the next stage is flipped over. So for example, in this one, you may only play trait cards with a face value of 3 or lower. So we'll say our next person plays a card. This person wants to play this card, but they can't because the rules say for this era that you can't play anything that has more than 3 points. So they change their mind and they play this red one instead. And the directions do encourage you to stack your cards in the same color like so, because some of them do have symbols at the bottom that will be affected in the scoring at the end. So this player plays this card here that allows them to steal a trait with a face value of 1 from an opponent's trait pile. So they're going to reach across and steal this one. So you follow the directions on the trait card. And some of them do have, like I said, symbols. This one essentially means you need to play it directly. So play would return, and we would flip the next age. But we're going to flip ahead so you can see what happens when a catastrophe occurs. So when a catastrophe occurs, everybody follows the main direction, -1 to your gene pool. So whatever individual gene pools are, they would lower it 1. So now the most cards that you can have in your hand, if you're this player, is 4. And remember that everybody will have their own individual gene pool. I just have one out because we're running out of space here. So after this player's turn now, they can only have 4 turns. Remember that you only stabilize at the end of your turn. So if your gene pool goes down and you have too many cards, you don't need to worry about it until the stabilization part. So everyone follows the first direction. Discard half of your hand, round it up. So if you have 5 cards, that means you discard 3, etc., etc. And then there's the catastrophe. So this time, -1 for every purple trait in your trait pile. Now this only happens if this is the very, very last catastrophe, which there are 3 if you recall, that we put in. So since this is our first catastrophe, this yellow text would not apply to us right now. It's there, but just kind of ignore it if it is the first or second catastrophe. Now the first player is going to shift 1 spot and will continue as normal. Everyone will play 1 trait, but remember that they've already had to discard down because that was what the directions told them. So we'll say that this guy plays this trait card and stabilizes by drawing up to 4 because now that's their gene pool. We'll say this one plays late And this trait allows them to play another card from their hand after they stabilize. So they would draw 3 more cards, and then say they wanted to play another dominant or just another point card. They could. Now they've already stabilized, so they don't draw more. And then this person would go, say they want to play this one. It costs them 2 points in the end, but it allows them to force somebody else to put a trait, say this one, back into their hand. And remember, since there's that symbol here, that means we play immediately. And then they would draw up. Oops, that's one too many. So let's go ahead and fast forward and pretend that we're now at the last catastrophe. So we would follow the directions as before. -1 to the gene pool. Discard 1 card from your hand for every blue trait in your pile. So this person would have to discard 2. This person wouldn't have to discard any, and this person would have to discard 1. Now there's no more playing of traits. This is the final round. So this scoring in yellow now is in effect. Remember, this yellow World's End text only comes into effect in the very last round. So as you're counting up, you would have to follow these directions. -1 for every blue trait in your trait pile. And the directions do suggest that you should do that first. So you might, if you're this person or this person, end up with negative points to start with. So that's the first thing that you do when you're adding up your points. And then the next thing that you do is count these points. So the compasses are counting as 0. This person would have no points. This person would, oh, that's their hand, not their laid out cards. This person would have 5, and this person would have 1. And then the final step in this scoring is any bonuses or modifiers in the trait pile. And here's the way you can tell quickly. Oftentimes your dominant cards are going to have this little signifier that means some sort of bonus. And then you'll see right next to it this symbol. What it means here, this would be something that you would resolve as well. So this person would probably have selected red as their bonus trait. All right, and then this person has one here. So remember that they had 1 point, and now they get 2 bonus points added on because of this final trait. And whoever has the most points has survived or has won at the end of the world. So let me bring you back up from the tabletop, and I can tell you about my final thoughts. So my final thoughts on Doomlings, first of all, I love small games, we all know that. I love small rule books, so already 2 points in the plus column. My favorite thing about this, and probably the reason that it caught my attention, is just how pretty it is. I know it's kind of hard to tell because I'm always wearing our merchandise, but I am a colorful person, so the aesthetics of the game, the bright colors, the way the box just kind of, that's why I keep doing this, probably distracting myself, but the game itself is beautiful. It was a very easy game to learn. I learned it in about 5 or 10 minutes, and I would say this is a really good game for those of you who have friends who like games, but they are used to playing your common big box store games, and you want to get them to try something a little bit different. All of the cards are self-explanatory. There aren't any special hidden rules that you have to worry about, and it is, like I said, a very quick game to learn. I can see sitting down with 2 of my close friends who like board games but don't like real complex board games, and they would enjoy this. this is also something that you could play and have a conversation with a person while you're doing it. It's not something where 100% of your attention has to be focused on the game. So this definitely gets my seal of approval. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, if you haven't yet, you want to like this video, you want to subscribe to our channel. And as always, I'm always looking for games to review. So if there's anything that you know of out there that falls under murder mystery or that falls under wordplay games, please let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to check them out. Until next time, everybody, have a great night.